AskReddit. What crazy stuff happened in the year 2001 that got overshadowed by 9/11? A huge investigation revealed that the McDonald's monopoly campaign was frauded since 1989 and had almost no legitimate winners. One guy was giving winning pieces to friends and family, and later the mafia. When this broke, it was mere weeks before 9/11, so it got quickly overshadowed. Edit. Double checking my facts. It went to trial on the 10th of September. Wild. Congressman Gary Condit having an affair with 24-year-old intern Chandra Levy, who went missing and was later found murdered. Well, this seems suspicious. In 2009 another man was convicted of murdering Levy, so Condit didn't do it. What sunk Condit's career was that in 1998 he was one of the Democrats heavily admonishing Clinton for Lewinsky, and 3 years later his own affair partner was outed and murdered. So him being a hypocrite about the sanctity of marriage and being a murder suspect did in his political career. That murder conviction was later overturned after it was revealed that a key government witness lied under oath, and the trial prosecutors covered it up. Air Transat Flight 236. Plane from Toronto to Lisbon ran out of fuel in the middle of the Atlantic and glided 75 miles to an airport in the Azores and safely landed. Longest glide of a passenger airliner. Happened 3 weeks before 9/11. My butt cheeks would be cramping so hard from clenching for 75 miles. American Airlines Flight 587. An Airbus A300 crashed in Queens, NY 2 months after 9/11. It was the second deadliest aviation accident in US history, and not well remembered. A woman who survived the WTC attacks perished on that flight. A hang glider accidentally crashed into the Statue of Liberty. I lived where the anthrax hit in 2001, just days after 9/11. They had to close down our post office and 4 weeks there was no mail. Then finally bills came radiated and in plastic bags. You couldn't open any of the mail, it was just stuck together. And this was back in the days before you could pay bills online. The anthrax attacks and DC sniper don't get talked about enough. They were, or at least felt like, part of 9/11 at the time and were a major contributing factor to the climate in the country that led to the approval of the next decade plus of the GWAT. Edit. And the shoe bomber. It's my turn. Lived in PG County during the DC sniper shit. The night before he was at a school, I went to a midnight showing of a movie with my roommate. When we left the mall we had to pull over because we missed a turn. We pulled into said school, Benjamin Tasker, to get our bearings. It was 3 AM. There was one car in the lot, we didn't see anybody. We figured out where we took the wrong turn and left. Later we'd come to find out we may have seen the Caprice the morning of the shooting. Real fear of God moment. Also, I was on the metro into Pentagon City when the Pentagon was hit on 9/11. That sucked a different kind of ass. System of a Down's Toxicity was released on the 4th of September. Slayer's God Hates Us All released on the 11th of September. George Carlin records an album on the 10th of September called I Kinda Like It When a Lot of People Die. In the set's 10-minute closer, Uncle Dave, Carlin explains why he likes big, fatal disasters with lots of dead people, asking, "You know what's the best thing I can hear on television?" We interrupt this program. "You know the worst thing I can hear?" No one was hurt. I'm always rooting for a really high death toll. That's why I like natural disasters. An earlier joke in the set includes reference to Osama bin Laden and an exploding airplane. Needless to say, the album was shelved until about 2016. I was working at a music store and Dream Theater released a live album on 9/11 called Live Scenes from New York, and the original album cover featured an illustration of the WTC on fire. We were asked to pull it the next day, and they re-released it with a new cover a bit later, but apparently if you went to a store and bought one it's somewhat of a collector's item. By which I mean lists on eBay for about $75 for a then $18 CD. Mad cow disease, Michael Jordan coming out of retirement for the second time, Alia plane crash. The front page story in a lot of papers on the morning of the 11th of September was about a Houston mom who drowned her 5 children in a bathtub. Andrea Kennedy Yates, right? When she got married her husband told her they would have as many children as God would allow and bought them a 4-bedroom house. But then when she got pregnant he changed jobs and moved them into a 2-bedroom trailer. And then after the second was born he squeezed them into an old RV to save money. She offered to get a job and he refused because God called her to be a mom. After the third and fourth one she had nervous breakdowns and tried to kill herself. She was put on Haldol and did much better. Husband even got a better job and moved them into a small house. Her psychiatrist warned her husband to get a vasectomy because if Andrea got pregnant again she would probably find some way to end her life. Husband refused based on religious grounds. Weeks later she got pregnant again. Psychiatrist urged her to abort. In response husband tells psychiatrist they will no longer be returning to therapy. Her husband made her stop taking her medicine because it might hurt the baby. That combined with pregnancy hormones plus her father dying led her to start hearing the voice of God telling her that if she wanted to die, her husband wouldn't know how to raise the children. Apparently he never helped with their care, so it would be merciful to end their lives first. She filled up the tub planning to drown them but her husband came home in time, and she was hospitalized. However a few days alone with the kids made him demand her release. He was warned that she needed to be watched around the clock but he left for work the next day anyway, calling for his mom to come watch his wife. She was an hour's drive away. Edit, no. He had the idea of purposefully leaving her alone for an hour every day to make her stronger. So he told his mom to come an hour after he left. I forgot about that part. In that hour Andrea drowned all 5 children. The morning of 9/11, they were doing a story about her on one of the morning news shows when they interrupted to talk to a reporter about a plane hitting the WTC. I can never think about the 11th of September without thinking about her and her poor children. Before we go further please press the red subscribe button below if you're enjoying this so far. Nepalese Royal Massacre. The 1st of June, 2001. 9 members of the royal family were killed, including the king. It is thought that the crown prince, who died 3 days later after being in a coma and being crowned the new king, was responsible. And people say the plot of Hamlet is over the top. The crown prince opened fire at an event killing damn everyone in line for royal succession, then he shot himself in the head. There was no attempt to become the king, though he was made king while in a coma, he just killed everyone else in line. The McDonald's monopoly scandal. The FBI uncovered this massive network of people involved in claiming all the prizes that were being stolen by the head of security at the company McDonald's had hired to run the game. The movie Zoolander flopped, relatively speaking, at the box office because it came out right after 9/11. The Boston Globe had all the information ready to release uncovering the rampant pedophilia being covered up by the Catholic Church. After 9/11, they decided to wait to release it. Hainan Island incident in April 2001. A Chinese jet clipped a US aircraft off the coast of China. The jet crashed in the sea, and the US aircraft landed in China. First major geopolitical mess of George Bush's presidency. Gave the world a somewhat major incident. I got briefly concerned as a teenager. Not any US aircraft, a military signals intelligence plane. The Chinese completely stripped the plane and didn't even try to hide it. All the US recovered was the airframe. The murder of Henryk Swiak. He's known as the last person killed in Nick on the 9th of November 2001, right before midnight, and it wasn't related to the terror attacks. He was gunned down in Brooklyn when he mistakenly went there to start a new job. His murder remains unsolved. He got shot in Bed-Stuy in 2001 in the middle of the night. Probably many people like that back then. Much better nowadays though. Michigan native here. I've got a local one. The burning of Rainbow Farm in Cass County. Rainbow Farm was a well-known marijuana campground concert space run by a gay libertarian couple in Newport Township, very rural part of the state. They regularly hosted marijuana cultural and pro-legalization events. This was pre-legalization, but there were still plenty of pot festivals around Michigan, and they were early organizers of the statewide legalization initiative. Basically, a local prosecutor and law enforcement got tired of tolerating them and started a harassment campaign, looking for any excuse to search the place and charge the owners. Eventually they did, and it started a long series of events culminating in the couple being charged with a variety of drug, weapon, and tax-related felonies. The cops took their 11-year-old son and put him in foster care and started the process of seizing the property using civil asset forfeiture. On the 31st of August, 2001, the couple, Tom and Rolly, skipped their court date and instead started burning every structure on Rainbow Farm to the ground. They started a standoff with the police, and pretty quickly the FBI was called in. Within a few days both men were shot dead by law enforcement. The autopsy showed that Tom was shot 5 times in the head and 3 times in the chest, just for good measure, I guess. This all happened days before 9/11, and likely would have been a huge national story. Writer Dean Kuipers, a Michigan native, wrote a book on the incident, Burning Rainbow Farm, published in 2006. At the time I was a reporter for a local NPR station, and I interviewed Mr. Kuipers on air after reading the whole book. It is a crazy story, a horrible tragedy, and well worth a read. The 2001 Aspen plane crash. It was overshadowed by 9/11 for pretty obvious reasons, but it's still a crazy story. A bunch of people, mostly young people in their low 20s who worked in entertainment, were on their way to Aspen for a birthday weekend to go skiing. An older colleague decided to host the trip, chartering a private jet to get them there at some point. The pilots informed him that they weren't going to make Aspen strict landing curfew, and also, there was a massive snowstorm. It was going to be both illegal and far too dangerous for them to land in Aspen, and they were going to have to divert the plane. He threw a giant fit. He told them, "No, you have to land in Aspen. I spent a lot of money to have a dinner party in Aspen. You're gonna get us there. Snowstorm and FAA restrictions be damned." While preparing to attempt landing, the charter customer then went into the cockpit, presumably to intimidate the pilots into meeting his demands. The pilots didn't want to upset him, so they attempted a landing, even lying to the air traffic controller about having visibility of the runway. So they attempted a blind landing. The plane was around 300-500 feet from the ground when the pilot realized he fucked up. The runway was actually in the other direction from where he was headed. So he quickly banked the plane into the other direction, presumably to fix the landing, or was probably making a last-ditch attempt to abort the landing altogether. As he did this, the plane's wing slammed into a hillside, and everyone went cartwheeling into their death. Bodies still strapped to their seats were ejected, and then scattered onto a nearby road. They didn't crash due to terrorism, hijacking, or a mechanical failure. They crashed because the customer is always right. The intimidating customer was Robert New. Pretending you know better than the experts flying you is a terrible mistake to make. Kobe died for a similar reason. He wasn't being an asshole, but the helicopter pilot felt pressure to go forward with the flight due to having a famous client. The 7th of September, 2001, US Gov announces they won't break up Microsoft as a monopoly. Forgotten in Rumsfeld's speech about the missing funds, the clearest and most important transformation is from a bipolar Cold War world where threats were visible and predictable, to one in which they arise from multiple sources, most of which are difficult to anticipate, and many of which are impossible even to know today. Also, the purpose of the speech was to cut military spending and shift some military control of logistics and base infrastructure to the private sector. The day before, so the 10th of September, $2.3 trillion was announced by the Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld as unaccounted for. They had trouble tracking the spending of tax money. Then the 11th of September happened and it got buried along with 5k New Yorkers. Full stop. Thanks for watching. Please press the like button if you enjoyed and the notification bell next to the subscribe button to never miss another video. Let me know your thoughts below. Bye.